In the process of my wife remodeling the bedroom, she decided that she wants these two wooden lamps spruced up. They look almost identical. They're not quite. These are pretty much the same. However, one of them was about, because of the riser, which was this tube, the other riser is only about this long. So one of them was about 4 inches taller than the other. She wants them both the same. She went and bought new white lampshades, and she wants me to spruce up the finish on these, and I'll do that here on the lathe. So this isn't really a turning video, but it kind of is, because I'm taking something that's been turned and I'm refinishing it. And I'm also going to polish these up now that I've got them to cut the same length. One of them, the rod was in 3 pieces, and that's just not going to work. So I went and bought a new rod. I'll cut both rods to length because they're both going to have to be cut down. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put these between centers, and I'm going to polish these pieces of aluminum up. And then I will put these between centers, polish them up, sand them up and polish them and put a finish on them. The bases I'm going to sand over at the workbench, and I will finish those up as well. So that's what this week's video is going to be. Sorry it's not really a turning. I'll get back to that just as quickly as I can. So to polish these up, I'm going to start with, because that's a little rough down here, I'm going to start with 120. And I'm going to go up through 600. That's 600, and I think it looks just fine. In fact, it's better than it was. I could actually go from here to a higher gloss with some metal polish like Abrasive or whatever, but I really don't think we need it. That's what I think. This guy right here. My wife may have a different opinion. We'll see. All right, now I need to go make sure this meets with her approval, and I'll be back. Well, the dummy was recording, but he didn't have his microphone turned on. What you missed is I've got blue tape on the bottom of this in 4 spots, and I have blue tape on each of these blocks, and I use thin super glue and activator to stick the 2 pieces of tape together, so everything will come off easy when I'm done. I just need these as standoffs while I'm sanding this up. I'm just going to be sanding this up, and it's really pretty nasty. Okay, that'll give you a little bit different view. Like I said, I'm just going to sand this up, and I think the inertia sander will be just fine. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. It's not running exactly true, but it's true enough. And again, I'm not going to start with 80. I'm going to start with 120, because what I really need to do is try to strip as much of this ugly old finish off of here as I can. I believe this is mahogany. I know it's not walnut. We've had these since 1979, and we didn't get them new. They were used. My wife used to work at the Sheraton in Midland, Texas, and they were remodeling a bunch of the rooms, and they asked everybody if there was anything in those rooms that anybody wanted, all the employees, and she wanted these 2 lamps. So these date back to at least 1978. And they've been pretty good lamps, and the wood's pretty, so. All right, that was 120. I'm going to sand 180, and then I'm going to sand with 240, and I'm not going to go any further than that. These don't need to go to 400 or 600. And I think that's right pretty. Don't you? You know, looking at this right in here. Let me change views. Looking at this right in here. This dark spot where the base kept covering it up, or kept it covered up, and the grain structure. This is walnut. Walnut will get lighter over time instead of darker. You see with this finish how it lightened up a lot. I knew walnut would lighten up, but I didn't realize it would lighten up that much. Okay, again, I'm going to start with 120. Smooth as the proverbial baby's bottom. Okay, these pieces are made of walnut and ash. And again, I'm going to start with 120. I got to turn it around. I thought I'd be able to get in there, but I can't. I can get in over here. I probably ought to turn my dust collector on. I got to do a little work to the top of this, and I'll use my drill for that. That's 240, and that looks good. So now we go over the workbench. I've sanded everything up good, all the finishes off. So now I'm going to shoot these with semi-gloss def lacquer. These are already done. And, you know, see, it's not a super shine, but it's nice. Again, because of the walnut fade, because it gets lighter, that hasn't changed because I didn't sand enough of that away, and I didn't really want to, because it's just going to change and fade again. Some of this got lighter, but you know, that's all right. First. In fact, the first 2 coats will be relatively light. And the third coat will be just a little bit. At least something will be for the bases. So every 30 minutes I'll put a coat on, and I'll come back when we're done and when I'm through with the finish, and I'm going to let it cure overnight, because it's going to take 4 or 5 days to really cure, because that's the nature of lacquer in a humid environment. And tomorrow I'll come back and put these back together, and I'll film that because I've got to shorten both of the rods to get them to fit in the base right. Now it is time to put these back together. So we'll run these in here. Tie a knot back in it, and that keeps it from pulling out. Now I'll put the switches back on. Actually, before I do that, I want to work on rod length. So I'll start with this one. Okay, got both ends marked to how deep they go in the socket. So that means what I want to do is feed this in here. Where it goes. Y'all let me forget to put this on. That's important. And this does need to be on there. So y'all are letting me forget all kinds of stuff. Now we can run this through. And see, that's the length that it's going to be. See how much of this is sticking out? That's way too much. So I need to mark this. In case you're wondering why they had these big washers down in there, it's to add weight, to make this a little bit heavier on the bottom. So basically what I'm doing here is, well, I'll turn this around in a minute and I'll show you. Okay, so what I did was I screwed this down to the tops of the washers, and now I need to mark this or where to cut it so that it will clear the bottom plate. And I'll cut them both the same length. Now I could get really close with this, but it's not necessary. So I'm going to leave about, I got about 1/4 of an inch clearance there, it looks like. So I'm going to leave about 1/8 inch. I'll put this back on here. I'm going to run this back up past here so that when I cut this off on my chop saw, I can run this back off and clean up the threads. Actually didn't use my chop saw, it would have roughed it up too much. So I used my saber saw with a metal cutting blade in it. I've got these both now cut the same length. Now I can put these on. Put my switches back in. The cool thing about this is you can still get these switches. with most lamps, most people don't realize most lamps are easily repairable. But I don't want to mess the finish up, so I'm not going to get it any tighter than that. But yeah, most lamps are easily repairable. Even if the lamp doesn't have the switch in the base, if it's got it up here, you can still buy all of those parts. I need these new pieces because the old ones, they're ugly. I left them all up in the house. I didn't bring them down here because they're really ugly. They're uglier than these because they're just really tarnished. She does want me to try to do something with these. I don't know if I can polish these up or not, but I told her I would try. And these come off easily. You just pull these up, squeeze this in, and off they come. So that goes there. This goes in here. You just feed it through. Now, what we'll do is we'll seat the rod in this piece, and I'll take it up to the threads, and it's got a little lock so that it doesn't spin, just a little screw that locks down on the threads. It don't need much, like I just did, because this holds this up. So now, I'll run them in here. I'll run the wires through here. And that through the base. What I'll do is I'll put this lock washer down. And I'll put this nut on. And because of the angles of this recess, it's really hard to get a wrench down in there to this. Yeah, that should be snug enough. And now we wire the bottom up. One side of the switch goes to the hot wire. Twist those together. Put your wire nut on. Actually, I said to the hot wire. That was not to the hot wire. That was one side goes up to the lamp, one side of the switch. The other side of the switch goes to one side in. Because it's AC, alternating current, it doesn't really matter what you put where. It's going to be okay. As long as you've got one side of what's plugged into the wall going to the switch, like this, and the other side going up to the lamp, like this, and the side coming back from the lamp to the other side of the switch. Now, if it was DC, all of this would matter, because that's direct current. It only flows one way, and you've got to get it right. But this is alternating current. The current flows both directions, so it doesn't really matter. Now, this cover was held on by the feet. They've still got the stickers on the bottom. They were made by Champion Manufacturer, Hialeah, Florida. This lamp is done. All I have to do is polish this up. These things just snap in here, and the collars sit down over it. One lamp done. One lamp to go. Champion Manufacturing. They started doing business in 1952. It says they are no longer active. The last significant event in company history was their voluntary dissolution in October of 1965. So these lamps date back to at least 1965. Let's get about putting lamp number 2 together and put the screws on. Guess what, folks? I'm stupid. Remember the counterweights? I didn't put them on. That means I have to take them both apart and put the counterweights on, but you've seen how they go together. So when I get that done, I'll come back. You know, it's always something. I get in a hurry, or I get distracted, or I flat out lose my mind. So I'll come back when I get all that straightened out. Now I can put the feet on this one. I took it apart, put the things on, the washers. Now I can put the feet on. The other one has 4, this one only has 3. Again, different designs on the bottom, except for putting the brand new lampshades on. This lamp is done. Put this here, pointing to the cord. Okay, this is all done. Oh, I still have to polish these up. So let me see what I can do about that. So this is what they did look like. And this is what they're going to look like. And I think she's going to be pretty happy with it, and I am too. So let me go over and do the next one. Basically, I just used the same process with this as I did the aluminum tubes. Okay, now they both look good. So here you have 2 beautifully refinished walnut and ash lamps from the 1950s or 60s. And they're ready to go in the house and put the new lampshades on. And when she's got all that together, I'll take a picture of the lamps with the new shades on and post that at the end. Sorry it wasn't a turning, but you know, some things take priority. Honeydews get in the way, just things happen. And you know the old saying, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. I've been helping her repaint a bedroom that she wasn't happy with. And it's been coming along nicely, but, you know, it's one of those things that keeps you out of the shop. What can you say? My next video will be a turning video, I promise. Well, I shouldn't make promises I might not be able to keep. Who knows what's going to happen next week. Anyway, but it is my intent to do another turning video next week.